Culture in the life course. Culture is a little like dropping an Alka-Seltzer into a glass. You don't see it, but somehow it does something. And that quote by Enzenberger really, to me, sums up what culture is. And basically, it's saying that you do not always see culture, you cannot always interpret it, and you may never think about it, but it is present and constantly shaping our lives and how we do things. And what is culture exactly, though? Culture is defined as a configuration of shared attitudes, values, goals, spiritual beliefs, social expectations, art, technology, and behaviors that characterize a broader society in which people live. In order to properly represent that definition, the objective of the project was to interview two people from two different cultures and in the same life course perspective, provide an overview of the cultures, present key information from each culture, and explain how culture has shaped their life course, and then compare and contrast the two cultures to, notice any similarities and difference in how their cultures have shaped their life path. So, for this project, I interviewed two young adults in their 20s from two separate world cultures. In the interview, I asked questions such as, how has your culture shaped your life course and the life course of your family? What was your biggest challenge as a child? What is your biggest challenge currently? What challenges do you think you'll face in the future? What do you believe in? Are you religious or spiritual? And what is your family like, and are they a big support system to you? Basically, I just asked a wide range of questions to learn as much as I possibly could about each interviewee so I could represent them in a proper way. So the first interview I conducted was with Jane, and Jane is a young female adult with so many goals and aspirations, and that strength in believing she can accomplish anything comes from her culture. The culture passed down to her from her parents. I asked Jane, do you think culture defines you? She replied, yes, I think my culture completely defines who I am. What my family believes is very similar to what I believe as an adult. I have made my values my own, but I would say my beliefs are very close to Southern conservative Christian views. And because of her conservative culture background, it also impacts other issues such as sex, childbearing, and marriage. And when I asked her how it impacts factors like that, she replied, I was raised in a Southern Christian household. My parents taught me to honor the Lord and to walk in His ways. I grew up in a family who always put Christ first, and that immensely impacts my values as an adult. I believe sex is a beautiful thing created by God and to be enjoyed within the confines of marriage. Sex creates an intimacy, and to have it with someone who has not made a vow before God to be with only you would be such a vulnerable act in which someone's heart could be easily broken. I believe childbearing is a blessing from the Lord. It is a miracle to be blessed with a child no matter what the situation, and for that reason I am pro-life. All of my values come from my conservative background. So basically all of, Jane's values and morals come from the path that God has laid out for her. So she's doing everything she can to follow that path. And, her parents believe in God strongly as well. So, her culture is being passed from her parents to her to hold strong and uphold what the Lord has set out for you to do in life. And, that's also why, Jane chose to go to a large Christian university so she could surround herself with people who have the same goals, values, morals, and cultures. So she can constantly, be learning and gaining new knowledge about a culture that she is a part of. And the next person I interviewed was John, and John is a 25-year-old hardworking man who was raised in Japan and England and then moved to the United States to attend college. John's view on culture is a little scattered because he experienced many different cultures. He has experienced the Japanese culture, the British culture, and the American culture, so his emotional views on who he is a little confused in his mind. In the interview, he talked about how he feels like he fits in the best, though, in the United States. Because he said in Japan, people would judge him because of his lighter skin and different hair and the fact that he spoke better English than Japanese. And then he said in Britain, people would judge him because he looked too Japanese. So he says, in America, since we're so diverse, he feels like he fits in better and is more accepted and less judged. And, because of all this, he believes that culture doesn't shape him and that he defines who he is, and he has to fit in on his own. Culture isn't going to help him in any situation like this. He talks about how also his parents have always defied the cultural norms, so we feel like culture has no boundaries. In ways in which his parents have defied the cultural norms is, for example, a Japanese man is never supposed to marry outside their culture, but his dad did. Another example is against each parent's culture. They do not believe in any type of organized setting religion. They both believe in spirituality and that positive and negative energies guide us. And because of his parents' open-mindedness, he believes culture has no boundaries, and he creates his own culture and defines who he is. So, after reading over the interview answers, I began to think, of course, the answers to these questions are going to be different. People are born and raised in different settings, and no one experiences life the same way as another person. When further analyzing, I began to notice even though the answers are different, the underlying messages tend to be the same. When I asked Jane and John about their emotional statuses, both responded basically saying the same thing, that they see themselves as flawed and just trying to do the best they can to fit in. Next, I asked them about how they view family and who do they turn to if they are feeling down and need to talk to someone. They both agreed family is very important, and they see family as a major support system. Lastly, I asked how they view education, and they both show the drive to better themselves through education. John already graduated with his bachelor's degree in education, and Jane is still in school, but both believe in the power of hard work. John says his mindset to work hard is set in the values of Japanese work ethics. His Japanese heritage taught him to work hard at all times, and if you complete a task, to start a new one. Always respect and follow the wishes of your superiors without any question or complaint, and treat customers or superiors like God. Jane's determination comes from the Lord, and doing everything she can to serve him and follow the path he has laid out for her. Both get their determination to work hard from their culture based on their values or beliefs. So, when asked the question, two different cultures, two different worlds, right? In a way, it is true, but in another way, it's not, because even though people are from two different parts of the world, they can still come together and, cherish the same basic values, such as family or hard work or, religion or spirituality. They can cherish, how they view themselves and how they treat themselves. So the whole thing that two different cultures, two different worlds is true is, in my mind, completely false. That people from two different complete parts of the sides of the world can actually be pretty similar if you really, think about it and analyze what they're trying to do and say and stuff like that. Moving on to my conclusion, basically what I'm trying to sum up is that these two people do come from different parts of the world, and they do come from different family lifestyles, but from their answers to my questions, I conclude that culture is shaping and forming their life course. Also for the end, I found a quote by Kofi Annan that I think represents culture in the light that I'm trying to display it in, and it reads, "People of different religions and cultures live side by side in almost every part of the world, and most of us have overlapping identities which unite us with very different groups. We can love what we are without hating what and who we are not. We can thrive in our own tradition, even as we learn from others and come to respect their teachings." I love this quote because, it represents society and the idea that we are made up of so many different cultures and religions, and because of that, we are able to teach people and in return learn and gain so much more knowledge about different parts of the world. And I believe if we didn't have all these different cultures, we would be so one-sided in our brains, and we would not have a broad knowledge span at all. So, with all of these different cultures coming into one area, we are having an overlapping of identities, but I believe that's uniting different groups. And, you can keep your own tradition and still learn about the values of other people. And, that's what I love and what amazes me about culture is that, people can be so different, but if you really get different cultures together, you can realize that people are also so similar in ways. And that's just culture to me, and I just love it. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.